What's the most fricked up thing you have seen a friend do to somebody? Heard about it in the morning. I had a dorm party in college. One of my male friends was super wasted and needed to sleep, so I let him have the spare bed. Another male friend got too drunk and asked to sleep on the couch. I woke up and my couch friend was in the spare bed, and the bed friend was gone. His shoes were here though. He ghosted me for 2-3 days, and then I ran into him on campus. I asked if everything was alright, and he told me he woke up to couch friend sucking him off. He pushed him off and drunkenly stumbled back to his dorm room. He was so disturbed, he distanced himself for the rest of the school year. I felt terrible, and told him I would help him press charges if he wants. Needless to say, I never talked to couch friend again. I was 18 or 19. My friend was a bit younger, probably 17. I was hanging out at his house one day and his mother told him to do something pretty small like take the dishes out of the dishwasher, so as she walks past him he grabs her hair and yanks down real hard so she falls on her butt and he drags her backwards about 10 feet. Then looks at me like what, as if it was a totally normal thing. I stopped hanging out with him after that and I talked to a couple other friends about it who were like, why don't you hang out with Alex anymore, but they didn't believe me. I was pretty weirded out by it. He tells all of them that I was a really weird guy. I guess not beating your single mom is weird. Oh well. What in the ever-loving frick? That made me physically cringe. I love my mom. I once had a couple of acquaintances. I knew them well, but they were both too much trouble to count as friends. Between the ages of 15-19 they were inseparable, absolute best friends, and just constantly getting into trouble with each other. It was never anything crazy malicious, but young lads who didn't care too much, drinking and behaving recklessly. Anyway, long story short, one night we were all in a pub and they started rowing. One of them pushed the other, and he just swung for him. Complete drunk idiot reaction, and one that was totally in line with both of their behavior. Again, nothing crazy malicious or nasty, just stupid. He hit him with a fairly average right hook, and his best friend in the whole world stumbled back, fell off the curb, smacked his head, and died on the spot. The lad is now doing a significant amount of prison time for manslaughter, and sits in his cell every day knowing he killed his best friend, for no other reason than he was behaving like a dumb young kid. This terrifies me. One of my closest friends in high school was in my English class when we were writing a lengthy final research paper. The day before they were due, I went to shower and came back with my Google Drive empty. I was so upset and had my teachers and friends comfort me. I ended up passing English but got a call over the summer from my teacher saying that he ended up finding my paper. Turns out my friend who knew my password was the name of my dead dog logged into my account and copy and pasted the 9-page paper word for word, and then erased my entire account. She denied it for months before she finally fessed up when she was drunk. We aren't friends anymore. Former friend acquaintance who was a bilateral amputee received free prosthetics from a mom and pop shop. Fully customized, physical therapy, the works. Friend and the wife of the shop owner set up a fundraiser to make money for another person to get prosthetics. Friend apparently stole the money, made a bunch of excuses, disappeared from social media, and cut off contact. They already had the recipient picked out and the shop ate the cost. I was married for 10 years. We had this other couple that we became friends with for about 5 or 6 months. They get divorced. Guy says he just can't deal with her anymore. And TBH, she was and still is a pain that I know of. About 2 months or so later some existing problems between my wife and I started coming to the surface and it just was not letting up and getting worse and worse. And I couldn't understand what was happening. Usually something would happen, we would figure it out, and move on. But this time nothing was working. My wife suggested that we should take a break from us for a bit and split up. I decide to go out for some much needed alcohol, and the newly divorced friend asks if he can come. We go out and he buys me drink after drink, until I am close to blacking out, could barely walk. He then asked me what all I would do to try to make things right with my wife and repair our relationship. So I told him about dates she wanted to go on, plays she wanted to see, and classes she wanted to take that we just hadn't gotten to do yet with kids and life and whatnot. Well, I find out that she was cheating with this friend. We start the divorce process and next thing I know they are going and doing all the things I told him I would do to reinforce my marriage. I had never felt more betrayed before. 2 months after the divorce they were living together. A month after that they were engaged, and about 2 weeks ago they got married. Was at a house party a good decade or so back and one of the girls was really drunk. So a few people took her upstairs to sleep it off, made sure she was well looked after and safe, and left her be. One of my friends went upstairs to the bathroom, sneaked into the room where she was sleeping and proceeded to RP her. When she woke up partway through and tried to stop him, he beat her unconscious and carried on. Some of us heard the commotion and ran upstairs, caught him mid-act with her bloodied and unconscious. We grabbed him, kicked the crap out of him, took him downstairs and bound him, and called the police. The police were told he was caught RPing a girl and fell down the stairs trying to run off. He didn't dare state otherwise. He got 15 years in prison and put on the sex offenders register. The worst part of it all is he'd always been a decent guy, had a girlfriend and was fun to be around. This was totally unexpected and out of normal character for him. Turned out later that he'd had a crush on her for a few years and she'd previously turned him down. No matter the reasons, there's no excuse for what he did. The RP alone was terrible, but the state he left her in with the beating added to it fricked her up for years. She was only 15 at the time and he was 17. She's 28 now and doing better, but still has some major mental health issues. Goes to show that no matter how well you know someone, some people are capable of really crappy things that you could never imagine them doing. 2 of my friends lied to another friend they were living with about how much money she owed for utilities every month. It was supposed to be a 3-way split, but she found out she was paying half every month. She's still friends with them, but I've pretty much cut ties with all of them. That is fricked up. In my last roommate situation, I organized our finances and every month I posted a breakdown of what everyone owed next to the bills so we all knew there wasn't any funny business. At a small party at my friend's house with maybe 15 or so people there, go into his bedroom to charge my phone, walked in on one of our friends going through his dresser, didn't ask him what he was doing, just screamed for my friend to come here. This thief of a friend tried playing it off that he was looking for something. When we asked him what he was looking for, he said, "Well, what were you coming in here for?" I just walked over to the charger, plugged my phone in and said that's what I was here for. "What about you?" My friend checked his dresser to make sure nothing was taken. Said he was missing a couple $100 in cash he had there. He pulled it out of his pocket and left. Load your medicine cabinet up with a bunch of marbles before having people over. I was very close friends with a married couple during grad school, hung out with them several times a week. One summer, the husband is away doing field work in Honduras. Wife spends a ton of time hanging out with me, totally platonic, and her husband has no worries. The wife was doing her research at a giant manufacturing organization nearby and was often going to after-hours work events with some of her co-workers. She's a social scientist, so spending time with factory workers and such was critical to her work. Well, turns out she was actually screwing some upper management guy and using me as her cover with her husband. She was cheating on him, using me, and lying to me about it. We were close enough friends that she could have talked to me about it and I would have understood, maybe. Worst part? This was happening while her husband was trying to escape the coup in Honduras at the time. He was being smuggled out of the country under tarps and produced in the bed of a pickup truck while his wife was busy betraying him at home. I haven't talked to her in years, and I'm still close with her ex-husband. When I was 7 or 8, 2 kids in my class nearly stoned a kid to death during recess and left him unconscious in a flood irrigation ditch when the bell rang. The boy was found shortly after by a staff member who immediately called 911. His mom burst into the classroom in tears, berating the teacher because she had already identified the boys as being violent towards her son. I never saw him, his mom, the 2 boys, or the teacher again. Not my friend, but my wife's formerly best friend. Let's call her Chelsea. Chelsea was a roommate of ours and had been a good friend of my wife since before they went to high school. For the life of me, I don't know why we put up with her, but she was my wife's only friend. Here is a short list of the things I witnessed. Before we were roommates with Chelsea, we lived with a different couple. Chelsea came over to hang out with my wife and met the couple. Within a week I found out Chelsea was attempting to undermine their relationship and trying to frick the husband. Chelsea regularly made negative comments about my wife's skincare makeup choices in front of her and me, but immediately played it off as a joke. Chelsea tried to emotionally wreck my wife before the wedding by making a Facebook post about how my wife is a terrible friend for not making her the maid of honor in our wedding, even though we didn't have the time money to allow for a standard wedding party. Chelsea vomited during a party she held while we were out of town and used my vacuum to clean it up. I realize now that this isn't exactly relevant to the post, but frick Chelsea. I saw a friend forcing a drunk guy to lick his wiener. He isn't my friend anymore. A girl I know shunned another girl we both know because she was our ped, said she didn't want the kind of negativity in her life brought by someone damaged. Coldest crap I've ever seen. This is one of those memories where every time I think back on it, it makes me cringe. My class went on a trip to the Pittsburgh Natural History Museum in 3rd grade. We had a mentally challenged boy in our class. I'll call him Jim. Jim talked and moved in slow motion and got a lot of crap for being mentally challenged. Even the teachers were very rude to him. I remember Mr. Warden, our music teacher, screaming at the kid for not being able to keep up with the songs we would sing. Remember, this is the 80s and times were a little bit different then. We walked through the museum, looking at all the dinosaurs and animatronics and had a really great time. It was perfect for 3rd grade boys. Lunchtime came and everybody brought a packed lunch. My friend, the perp, and I were really both into Ghostbusters and each had an Ecto Cooler packed in our bags. For the uninitiated, an Ecto Cooler was a Ghostbusters branded Hi-C box with Slimer on the front. If I remember correctly, we were sitting on some circular stairs near the entrance and eating our lunch together. Jim was sitting 2 or 3 stairs in front of us. My friend grabbed his unopened Ecto Cooler and slammed it into the back of Jim's skull as though he was spiking a football. Jim recoiled and slowly put his hands over his ears, mumbling to himself. I was in 3rd grade, so I didn't have the social skills to call him out for his heinous act, but I spoke up and asked him why he did that, and I remember my friend's response verbatim. "It's okay. He can't feel anything anyway." I remember thinking, he probably feels more than any of us. It still hurts my heart to this day. This is very sad, so wrong. I had a friend who tried to pressure his friend into taking some Adderall. When his friend refused because he had heart issues, my friend crushed up the Adderall and slipped it into his drink while he was in the bathroom. He then joked with his friend about slipping it into the drink that he just finished. His friend got peed and my friend told him that he was just joking and that he didn't actually do it. The friend left after that. Then my friend admitted to me that he really did slip Adderall into his friend's drink. We're no longer friends. My ex-friend when we were 10 stole my holographic Charizard and my holographic Blastoise card, then showed them to me the next day at school and said he had bought them the day he stole them from me. Oh heck no. I was hanging out with my new roommate, college, at Walmart when she suddenly grabbed an employee and told them that this guy down the aisle was stealing. Pretty much got all the employees' attention onto him, so she could then steal stuff without worry. In a nightclub bathroom, a friend lifted a turd out of one of the toilets and threw it across the bathroom. It broke up midair and hit a few different people. Moron. He got a bit of a kicking before bouncers threw him out. This isn't really emotionally scarring fricked up, but it still pisses me off. My so wanted to buy a Dreamcast. He used to have one when he was younger, but it got sold or broken at some point. So his boss, at a used game store at the time, has a Dreamcast with all the cords, extra controller, the works, and Marvel vs. Capcom, which was the game that my so wanted more than any other. So boss wants to sell it because he is going on vacation, but my so doesn't get paid for a minute, so he can't buy it right now. Boss wants to sell it soon, so he says won't be able to wait if someone else has the money. My so calls his friend Rob once he's home, tells him about the system game and asks if he can borrow some money until he got paid. Rob says yes, absolutely. He'll go get it and bring it over, except Rob never shows up. So goes into work the next day and boss tells him Rob bought the stuff from him. After he finally gets a hold of Rob, it turns out he's decided to keep the system and games for himself because of what good condition they were in. Like seriously, frick you Rob, you're such a dong. Man, he really got robbed. I saw her swing a golf club at her boyfriend's head. In furious anger, For real, full speed, trying to actually hit him with it. She missed. If she had hit him she would have killed him. Probably. She apologized to everyone who saw it, but it was too creepy. People kind of shunned her after that. Attempted murder is not okay. Attempted murder is not okay. Words to live by. I was visiting a friend in the town where he went to college. He introduced me to his girlfriend who lived in the apartment right above him. Being the shallow 21-year-old I was at the time, my very first thought unfortunately was, wow, she's really homely. My next impression of her, however, was that she was extremely friendly, funny, and smart. Great conversationalist and incredibly charming. When she went back upstairs, I told my friend that I really liked his girlfriend. He said, yeah, I wanna break up with her. I asked what was stopping him and he explained that they were going on a vacation to Costa Rica in a few months and that she was paying for it, which made sense since he had always been a broke mooch. I said, so you're just going to string her along for 3 months to get a free vacation and then you're going to dump her? He explained that he planned to dump her 1 month after they got back. He had it all planned out. He was going to waste between 4 and 5 months of this girl's life, pretending to love her, just to score a free trip. It was at that point I realized he was well into his transition from kinda sketchy to total piece of crap. Back in high school I heard a rumor about one of my old classmates having a sex tape. A group of her friends were talking about it and I overheard. Apparently, she doesn't even know it's out there and not one of her friends said anything to her about it. If she was in high school it's likely she was underage and whoever had it was technically in possession of CP. Sam and Hazel, both girls, were best friends from day one in high school. I'd been friends with Sam since middle school and I knew she was, essentially, a narcissist who honestly believed she was the most irresistible catch. This not only led to her sleeping with an 18-19-year-old when she was 13-14, but also into, once he got married, sending him pictures of her naked as a minor and dropping a tip to his new wife that he had child pee on his computer. Wife snooped and found it. He got dishonorably discharged from the Marines and incarcerated. That was Sam in a nutshell. So, when Hazel decided she had a crush on Alec in our school, Sam decided she wanted Alec first. Hazel, however, got to Alec and Alec dated her for a year. Then Sam got to Alec and he started cheating on Hazel with Sam. When Hazel found out, she ended things and told Alec to go stuff himself. Alec stayed with Sam for a few months, found out she was cheating, shocker, and eventually got Hazel back, though it took 2 years. Hazel and Alec dated for another year before she ended things for good. Before she jumped back into the dating pool, she got herself tested. Lo and behold, she had gotten an incurable, lifelong STD. She told Alec. Alec got himself tested and found out he had it. Hazel had never got with anyone else, and they both realized that since Alec had only got with Sam prior to Hazel, Sam had to be the origin point for theirs. Hazel was livid and also devastated. The worst part was that Sam confirmed to me later that she knew she had it when she was dating Alec and he had gone back to Hazel. Specifically, I told her, Hazel got an STD from Alec. Sam, you need to go get tested, because they think they got it from you. I could barely get the whole sentence out before she goes, oh, I gave that to them. I know. And then she paused for comedic effect, goes, oops in a cutesy voice and laughed. She then admitted she had unprotected intercourse often because it felt better. I have never been more done with a person in my life. Happened to me. Best friend spent 6 months turning me from an easygoing dude into a possessive paranoid person with my girlfriend. Told me she would cheat on me. Used to make up stories about her. Told me to check her phone etc. Then behind my back he'd look like the good guy to her. The confidant. I mean, in the end he got his way. I called her one day when she had a day off work, as did he. Neither told me they had gone to a local shopping mall together. They weren't friends without the link to me, which was odd. That's when the paranoia took off big time. Then New Year's, we're at hers. They're always whispering together. She can't take her eyes off him after a few drinks. Breaks up with me on New Year's Day. Goes on a date with him. Comes crawling back apologizing that she didn't see his manipulation. Told her to frick off. Told him to frick off. I guess you didn't see the manipulation either. Looks like two victims here that got played against each other. Had some friends in high school who liked to party pretty hard. Lost touch with them when I left for college, and I refused to interact with them after this, but heard a story about them during winter break of last year. There was this kind of off kid, Rick, who had an Adderall prescription. Well, one of the guys, James, sends him a text saying, "Hey, can I buy $400 of Adderall off of you? Let's meet at Youngster Elementary at 7 o'clock. Rick brings his full prescription and meets James. Another friend shows up masked, pulls a gun on both Rick and James, and has them empty their pockets and leaves. James meets back up with the other friend. They split the Adderall and the cash Rick was carrying, and then went to a party to deal some of it. When asked about it, their excuse was, well, it was just Rick. Guy is weird, ya know." A month later they went back to Youngster Elementary and threw a couple of Molotov cocktails at the, thank God they were brick, walls. I guess this might not count because these guys weren't friends of mine, and I didn't actually see it in person, just was told about it later. But it's pretty fricked up, so you might like to hear it. When I was in high school I was a wrestler. I was one of the better wrestlers in the state, so the younger kids liked to talk to me a lot. Our team had gone to a wrestling camp and there was a very small freshman kid on our team. I think he wrestled the 98-pound weight class, so he was small. As we were going up to camp he was pretty talkative. Coming back he was extremely quiet. I started talking to him on the bus about it, and after a while he told me that these bigger, older kids, who were not liked by anyone and everyone knew they were bullies, would come into his cabin and mess with him. One of the nights, they were getting really rough and he tried to leave because he was scared. They grabbed him and beat him up. Then one kid took a baseball bat and they shoved the handle up his anus. They were all laughing and scared him so bad that he didn't want to tell anyone. Mostly I think because he was embarrassed. I've never felt so bad for someone in my life. I told my coach, who told the police, and those kids all got charged. I was a senior that year, so I couldn't befriend that kid any longer than that year, but I made sure he had other friends on our team. I've seen him a couple times since then and he seems to be doing well. Thank you for telling your coach. Those guys are scum. I saw a friend beat his girlfriend. I was walking home with a friend from high school. We were not far behind a mail truck that was on its route, delivering mail to people's mailboxes. At one point, he just started opening the mailboxes and removing the contents, looking for checks or anything interesting. When I told him that he could get arrested, he just laughed and kept doing it. So I left him there, with his hands full of other people's private mail, and went off by myself, never again associating with him. Should have called the police. I once witnessed someone, not my friend, stick a decently powerful firecracker in another friend's mouth while he was passed out drunk. Everyone was laughing like it was just a joke, like haha that would be crazy if you did that. Then the mother sucker feeding off the laughter lit the fricking wick and everyone was like WTF and had no time to react. It lit and sizzled down instantly to firecracker body and somehow luckily it turned out to be a dud. Tonight almost took a dark turn. Pretty sure in most jurisdictions this would qualify for attempted murder, or at least aggravated assault with reckless disregard for human life and assault with a deadly weapon. A friend of mine since middle school, we can call him Jake. Jake started smoking weed with the rest of us, but unlike the rest of us he was instantly hooked on the mystique of drug use and the feeling of being out of himself. While the rest of our pretty large friend group generally kept our crap together and started our careers lives, Jake got deeper and deeper into the subculture. He started doing and selling painkillers, got arrested a couple of times, went to jail, got out. Then last winter Jake got into an argument with our other friend Matt in the middle of the night. They were roommates and had probably been up for a while, and Jake was doing M at the time and was easily set off. Jake stabbed Matt about a dozen times. Matt ended up in the hospital for a couple months, a roller coaster of getting better and getting worse until finally he contracted pneumonia and died. Jake is doing life. I miss both of them. Shared a first floor apartment with a spoiled rich kid. Parents buy new cars and boats whenever he wants. He was a slob and would put trash bags on the porch instead of walking the 100 yards to the dumpster. So he decides to catch the possum in a plastic trash can. Instead of walking it to the woods a block away he decides to kill it by pouring gasoline on it and lighting it on fire. Nope the frick out there before he started playing Huey Lewis in the news. seriously emotionally manipulate his girlfriend who was madly in love with him on an almost daily basis, would give her a hard time anytime she went out without him, even to the shops, would chastise her like a child if she ate the wrong foods, would not allow her to drink, and if she did, she got chastised again. He would belittle her and treat her like some dumb child when other people were around. Offered to sell her to me one time. That was the last straw. I told her she needed to leave him immediately, and to my great relief she did a few days later. That ended my friendship with him for good. I was not sad. Last I heard she's gone to college now and is doing great. I know a chick who got caught cheating and stabbed her boyfriend twice in the chest with a kitchen knife. He was more angry than injured and luckily for her he just held her down until the police showed up. Witnessed a car crash and flip on snowy Butte, Indiana freeway late 90s. Whole car of us would rat stops to help lady. We get her out of the car, make sure she's okay, and wait until cops show up. We take off, and a couple miles down the road King Hood Rat pulls the lady's CD binder out from under his shirt. I mean, we were on some bad crap, but that was cold. Oh god, I do not miss the hood rats of my youth. Not to somebody, but when I was in middle school someone used to take roadkill from the relatively busy road and would make a noose from twine and hang it from the stop sign. This was a relatively regular thing, but nobody claimed responsibility for it until years later my friend told me he had been the one doing it. I was friends, in his school, with the requisite small group of goth alternative kids. One of the dudes was a metalhead, kind of off-kilter and casually violent. He owned knives, liked to burn things, and look at pictures of mutilated people on the nascent 90s internet. But then, we were all a bit fricked up and those interests at least partially aligned with my own. He seemed otherwise perfectly pleasant, just this quiet dude with odd hobbies. Then he invited me to his place to play Warcraft 3. Nazi paraphernalia, literally everywhere. You have been visited by the Doggo Beer Master. Comment delicious so you always have beer in your life. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.